Hey everybody, welcome to BSing with BS. This is the other half of BS. This is Bruce. I'm Beth. Yay! Yeah, you're like, ooh, okay. I hope everybody's having a phony day. I actually mean that in the best way. We're talking about cell phones today.
Phones.
Phones.
Did you know?
I did know. Yes, thank you. And that's the show. All right.
I call BS.
What do I know? I don't know. What do I know?
I don't know. I wasn't given any facts. Did you know that the average cell phone has more computing power easily than all of the computers that were used to design the Atlas rockets and the Saturn V rocket that took man to the moon in 1969?
I actually did know that. Yep, I did know that. Yeah, which is freaking scary.
It's not really a little known fact.
No,
it's a fact that most people know.
It's
We're just warming you up.
Right, but it's scary that much computing power is available. I mean, how many different pictures can you save, and how many files can you download, and all that. You know, the smartphones of the day are just amazing computers now, little handheld computers. And weren't we just watching how the spies, how the evolution of the spy game? Now the cell phone is their biggest, asset, but it's also their potentially biggest danger is having a cell phone on their body or anything.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, that was a really
What's
cool
it called?
show.
Spymaster?
Don't remember. Netflix.
Netflix. I think it's called Spymaster. It's pretty new.
Yeah, it's really
But
cool.
so bottom line is, if you're one of those people that is truly concerned about your personal privacy, you should not own a cell phone. You should not carry one. You shouldn't have one in your car. They are easily trackable. And as Edward Snowden pointed out, despite what we might think about being able to trust our government, they have the ability to watch every single move that we make.
Well, so that's
through that lens right there,
that's
too, as a
pretty
matter
much.
of fact.
Yeah, that's pretty much. And it's what was it?
Hi, government.
There's something like well over 80% of Americans now have cell phones. I mean, even 10-year-olds have cell phones, but it's over 80% and something like 45% of the world's population has an individual cell phone, which those numbers are staggering. That's amazing.
When you consider that there's an awful lot of people that shouldn't be able to afford to have that technology or have no need for it whatsoever.
Right.
I'm talking about, there's still bush people and stuff that, they don't use any of these modern technologies.
Right.
So that's a high number.
But you're saying how people, they spy on you. Obviously, the GPS is kind of one that comes to mind immediately. But how many people have their cell phone sleeping right next to them and can potentially calculate your sleeping hours, when you're asleep, when you're not? And that's a huge percentage of people that actually, have their cell phone right next to them while they're sleeping.
In my defense and in my personal case, I don't need that because I also sleep with a CPAP, constant positive airway pressure machine, that keeps track of exactly how much I sleep and then broadcasts it out to some undisclosed friggin' wireless signal somewhere so the doctor can apparently look at it.
Right.
But in other words, so I don't need that.
No,
but you're right.
That doesn't mean you're not being monitored at some point.
Look, these things are ubiquitous and insidious at the same time. They are as handy as they are and as reliant as our society has become on them. We shouldn't be using them, in my opinion. They're terrible for us.
Yeah.
They're terrible for us.
So how many hours a day do you think the average? Let's go with American. But how many hours a day do you think the average?
Are we going with Americans because we don't care what other countries think?
No, it's just easier to kind of check up on. We definitely are the most populated as far as cell phones.
So those facts are more readily available? Is that what you're telling me?
Let's say with that. Yeah.
How many hours a day does the average American spend on their cell phone?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
I am going to say waking hours. Well, no, because you wouldn't have sleeping hours
would hope.
on your cell phone.
We got a whole nother problem. That's a whole nother ball of wax.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I am going to say 6.5 hours a day.
Holy crap. Average?
Yeah.
Or just you? Now, the average is just about 3 hours a day. Because people do need to work, and they do sleep, and they do ideally eat, and that doesn't mean they aren't on there at the same time. But yeah, it's about 3 hours a day, which is, that's still, that's quite a bit of time if you're watching, that's longer than like the Avengers movies. Just saying. How many times do you think they tap or click or swipe a day? What do you think if you had to quantify that?
I'm not talking about typing stuff out. I'm just selecting something
just
by tapping on it.
accessing. Yeah, accessing things.
Well, let's see. You just told me that I'm using it 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I got to figure that about, I don't know, 10 times a minute, 180, I don't know, 1,800 times.
That's low. That's low.
Crap.
Yeah, it's over like 2,600 times a day that people click and tap and swipe.
It's a good thing they're not physical keys then, because they'd wear out.
They would. They would. Yeah, I would have had to gone through a keyboard.
Remember Blackberries?
They do.
Little teeny keys.
You had one, didn't you?
I had a Blackberry.
Yeah.
Thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Barack Obama had a Blackberry. He was the first president to use a smart device.
Was he?
They took it away from him after he was elected because they couldn't make it secure. And then everybody's like, well, then I'm not buying a Blackberry. And nobody else. And they went out of friggin' business soon after that. It wasn't his fault. What do you think is the best, and this isn't a quantitative thing, I'm just asking for, the best feature of having a cell phone that isn't the ability to make a phone call?
I think
smartphone. We should say smartphone, not cell phone.
Yeah. We should sell. Yeah, because there's are some that are just cellular phones. I want to say what I'm going to go on based on what I use it most for.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's really the best, but I don't. I like checking the weather or checking the internet, checking or fact checking. BSing. That I think is the easiest because I can monitor my business.
Access to information.
Yeah. However you want to group that into one kind of term. But what do you think?
Well, I like texting.
Yes.
I think texting is a good method of communication as long as it's used properly. But like all methods of communication, it can certainly be used properly, and especially by people that don't know all those unwritten rules about how to text and how not to text.
Not to use the
Don't yell at me.
No.
Because my mother, for
use
example,
the emojis that are inappropriate.
She can't be bothered with uppercase and lowercase, so everything's in uppercase. Well, so some people look at that like she's constantly yelling. She just doesn't know. It's just easier for her.
Meanwhile, my mom writes her texts like she's writing a letter. Dear Beth.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. Love, Mom.
How are you today?
Okay, Mom, I can read it. Okay, so...
Well, that's important to think about, though, because we've got this new technology, and the younger you are and the higher ratio of your lifetime that you've had that device in your hand, the better off you are, the better you are at using it. And they're in a completely different culture than we are, and we're in a completely different culture than our parents are. That makes our kids and their grandparents in way different cultures with regard to how these devices are getting used.
Yes, yeah. And of course, we're in an instant gratification society. And so even when...
Thank you, Ray Kroc. Dick.
But I mean, I'm not even talking about the text speak, the LOLs, all the that. Just spell out words. If you're going to talk, spell them out. But there's it said that 90% of your texts or texts across are read within 3 minutes.
That's why I like texting.
Instant gratification.
For my own personal thing, I might not be in a situation to or have the time to take or make a phone call. But I can send a brief text, get my message out there.
Right.
The implied thing about a text is answer this when you can.
Implied.
It's not a, when the phone rings, people instinctually answer it. When they get a notification of a text, they glance at it, go, I can answer that later. So I think it's a great way to communicate.
Right. Or they can go, yep, okay, done. And that's it. And that's all you need. You don't need a full-on conversation.
As long as people
everybody.
actually read the texts that are sent to them.
Yes. I always read them.
Oh, so you just ignore them.
Yeah. That's a different story.
Did you get my
read them.
text? What the?
Oh, I just sent you a text and it took a while. Well,
It
then
was a dog's nose.
it was adorable.
It was a picture of a dog's nose.
And I said I
This
was
dog
being
right
too
down here.
nosy.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, that was funny. I got a text the other day, and it was like 3 versions of the same text, and you could tell that the sender was doing voice to text or, talk to text, because
Really funny when they have an accent.
it went all over the place. I just waited for the messages to come in because each one was different, and each one was funnier because you could tell where she was trying to enunciate better. Yeah, she finally got the message across, but I just let her go with it.
So, I mean, these smartphones, though. So, but here's what I mean by the bad part of it, and this has been acknowledged pretty much right out of the gate of these with these devices, is that the family, even the family that still used to sit around and eat dinner together once in a while, Sunday evenings or whatever, now they're at the same table, but they're not in the same conversation. Because they've all got their phones in their face, even the parents, even me.
Yep.
They've got their phones in their face.
Restaurants.
And so you're completely and I love the groups. You see this in some TV shows and stuff where it's and I've even seen it in some restaurants where you sit down at the table and there is a place. Everybody put their phone in the rack.
Yep.
Nobody or in the bucket or whatever it is. And you pick your phone up when somebody pays the bill, because otherwise you're not really engaged in the moment.
Right.
So I think it's destroying the ability and the art of face-to-face contact and face-to-face conversations, just like the one we're having right now.
Yeah. So we have a piece of property, a family property, down on a lake, and of course everybody gets there, and we don't have a whole lot of cell coverage anyways, but we do have, we bring our phones. Everybody's got a phone. And I thought it was, at first I was like, oh, really, this is going to be kind of another piece of built stuff going on these trees. But my brother built this small little caddy that has room for all of us when we get to the lake. All of us put our cell phones in this caddy, and it is just hanging on a tree, and it's awesome because all the phones go in there.
Prevents lots of beer from getting spilled on your phone.
So yeah, it's a multi-use thing. First off, we're not all digging around going, well, it's under the picnic table, it's in the sand. We don't lose our cell phones. That's first off. But it disengages that electronic plug that we have and allows us to truly enjoy why we're there. And so I've come to like that little caddy. I think it's a cool idea, and it just kind of, there you go. It's nice to put them aside for a little bit. So
what about some of the other features on these smartphones, though, that have absolutely changed society? I can think of 2.
I know there's a couple that are super helpful, especially with our older kids being,
well, I'm not applying any kind of morality or good versus bad right now to
okay,
them.
so what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking of 2. First of all, to me, the best invention, personally, for somebody that does not like to be lost, is the idea of handheld GPS.
Yeah.
That my phone tells me exactly where I am almost all the time.
Yeah.
Now, there are moments of panic when signal lost.
Yes.
That's bad. Especially when you're driving and you're going, find signal. Find signal.
Oh, that just reminds me
Hello, Alexa.
Reminds me of 2 things, though. We're walking in downtown Portsmouth, New Hampshire. go this way. The GPS told us to go this way. All right, we'll go this way. I know it wasn't the right way. That's all right. We're following the GPS. It took us the completely wrong way.
Sometimes when you're at point A and point B is directly behind you,
yeah,
it will kind of like route you a way that you wouldn't normally go.
Well, that was
And you
walking
can really,
too.
you can,
we were walking.
we were
too.
walking, and
Yeah,
we're not used to walking
GPS walking was harder.
Right.
So the GPS thing also reminded me when we were traveling in Scotland, and we were driving, and it was a linguistic adventure.
This is a linguistic. I want to go drinking.
The
If you want a linguistic adventure, go drinking with a Scotsman.
That wasn't too bad of an accent.
Oh, it's pretty goddamn funny. The Scottish accents on the things over there. No, she was English.
She was British, yeah.
She was English.
But
she wasn't Scottish.
she threw us off, she meaning our GPS lady.
She always wanted us to drive on the wrong side of the road. For one thing.
I know that was one thing, and we kept having to fight that.
Dumb buddy.
But yeah, she was throwing us off, and it wasn't because it was kilometers, meters, any of that kind of stuff that we're not used to. It was just her accent, and we finally had to kick it back over to my GPS that was speaking American.
Talking about technology like this, the ideas that Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry and that crew came up with can't be overstated.
Yeah.
We are nearly living in the Star Trek age right now. The only thing we can't do is travel faster than the speed of light.
We can't.
Well, we can't disintegrate people and bring them up.
I wish we could.
Did you ever read that book?
I wish we could.
Did you ever read that book, The Physics of Star Trek?
I've seen it around our house.
There's a book called The Physics of Star Trek where actual physicists break down the stuff that Star Trek people do. We don't know how to do that. You don't just go, and then when you're having trouble, you do it more.
Yeah,
And you got to make that noise. What was that noise?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. No.
Woo, 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 woo,
Woo. And then you go, oh, damn, Grandma's stuck in the phone line again.
I am Spock.
Well, thanks for watching. See you next time.
We'll now return you to our creature feature.